Welcome to the CTA Foundation's CES interview series. My name is Steve Ewell, and I'm Executive Director of the Consumer Technology Association Foundation. And I am really pleased to be joined today by Jacqueline Baker, who is the Vice President of Startup Programming at AARP Innovation Lab. Welcome, Jacqueline. I am so happy to have you here joining me for this interview around CES 2021.
Thank you, Steve. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation. It's always a joy to talk with you and to learn what your organization has going on, and of course, share what we have going on. So happy to be here.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I've really loved our partnerships and our opportunities to really promote startups and others doing great work in the innovation space. And, AARP is obviously a brand that I think just about all of our audience knows, but there may be some people out there that don't know about all the great work that AARP is doing in the innovation space. Can you share a little bit about what AARP Innovation Labs is?
Well, thank you so much for that question, Steve. As you noted, I know that many people are aware of the AARP brand, but we also know that people are still learning about AARP Innovation Lab and really a lot of the disruptive innovation work that we do. So we'll start with AARP as the basis. At AARP, our mission is to empower people to choose to live how they want as they age. And within AARP Innovation Labs, guess what we're doing? We're empowering people to choose to live how they want as they age using innovation. We're on the hunt really for some of the best and brightest startups all across the country and beyond that ladder up to spaces that we are committed to, primarily the fintech and health tech space. And I'm sure we'll get into that just a little bit. That is in essence what we do. We're constantly looking for startups that are disrupting things, that are making products and solutions and services that help people to truly live the life they want to live as they age.
Well, that's great. And I know you were just recently recognized for some of that work with the Fast Company Best Workplaces for Innovators list. So congratulations on that great recognition for your work in this space. Why is it so important to AARP to be in the innovation space?
Yeah, thank you for that. I first want to say, I'm sure you saw that big cheese when you mentioned the award. And one of the reasons I'll dip into just for a second to discuss, one of the reasons why that award is so special and so meaningful is that it actually wasn't just an AARP Innovation Labs initiative. The reality is, innovation is something that permeates across our entire organization. And every nook and cranny of AARP, you see innovation work being done, whether it be incremental or disruptive. And so that was truly a big win for not only just the work that we do within AARP Innovation Labs, but the work that's being done really across the entire enterprise. As it relates to the overall, why, the question around why we're in the innovation space, it's so interesting. If you think about some of the biggest challenges that we're looking to solve for, I mean, there are huge challenges, as you know, Steve, as it relates to health tech. There are huge challenges as it relates to fintech, areas around disparities, areas around inequalities in those areas. And although we very much work with super smart people, like I have the opportunity each and every day to work with super smart people across the enterprise, these issues are huge. I mean, they are big issues that have been plaguing people as they age for many decades, for many, many years. And so the thought process is, maybe we can knock a bigger dent in these issues if we collaborate with some dynamic startups. You know, Steve, with a lot of the work that's being done with startups, even with the CTA Foundation and with CES, it really is cutting edge solutions that startups come up with. And so our thought process is, maybe we can exponentialize the work that we're doing by finding startups in the spaces that we're truly committed to, which is health tech and fintech. And so that's some of our thinking around why startups.
Oh, that's incredible. And yeah, it's something that I've really found interesting, over the last few years since we launched the CTA Foundation. We've seen more and more attention being called to the aging space, bringing aging and tech together, and really overcoming some of the stigmas that people have of, older adults won't use tech. We obviously know that is not true, but we're also seeing some real innovation happening in this space. But there's still a lot more work to be done and a lot of opportunities. Are you seeing gaps in the market that you see real opportunities to fill?
Yeah, one thing I'll say about the comment that you just made about the adoption of technology by people as they age, I think one very important resource that really speaks to that is a tech trends report that actually we've released for the past couple of years, which is totally available on our aarp.org site. So if you're curious about what the adoption is of people as they age as it relates to technology, feel free to check out that report. But of course, there are gaps. I mean, if we think about even this year, if you just think about 2020, or actually, if you think about last year, 2020, and a lot of the issues that we faced as it related to the pandemic, we think about things like social isolation, which I know that your organization focuses quite a bit on. That issue that we thought was a big issue last year and the years before it, it's an even bigger issue now. Why? Because people have been sequestered in their homes for months for health related and safety related reasons. And so while it was an issue a year or two ago, unfortunately, that issue continues to persist. And that's a reason why that's a focus that, across the organization, we tend to shine a bright light on. So of course, there are gaps there. There, of course, are gaps in the aging in place area. How do we ensure that as people age, they can continue to age comfortably and respectably in their homes? There's also, a huge amount of focus on medication adherence. I mean, we've seen firsthand and had the opportunity to collaborate with a number of startups that focus in the medication adherence space. And so there continue to be gaps in those spaces and so many beyond that. We actually had a challenge in late 2020 that was focused on gaming. And it's funny that I know you and I were talking previously a bit about gaming and the subject of gaming. And, the one thing that also has to be kept in mind about people as they age is that while we want to have good health and people want to make sure that they're financially stable, there's also this component of, just wanting to feel good and enjoy life. But also gaming also helps to solve several other challenges as it relates to social isolation, as it relates to education around financial wellness and health wellness. And so gaming is one of those very interesting things that we've dabbled in a little bit to find some of the startups that activate in those spaces because it helps to solve other issues as well.
That's incredible. And you hit one of my just core topics that I love to go on about because whenever you're talking about aging, obviously health comes up and medical and all of that in really critical areas. But often it gets narrowed down to such a degree, whereas, aging is really across the lifespan. So it can be about caregiving and healthcare and things along those lines, and those are critical. But it can be about work. It can be about play, and play is a really critical piece to all the work that we're both doing to drive innovation and help people be connected. So I love hearing about that work that you guys are doing in this space, and I do think that there's certainly gaps. So all those entrepreneurs who are watching this right now, I can't wait to see them look at how they can fill those gaps. And I do think just as coming out of the financial crisis in 2008, we saw a lot of new startups created. People were out of work looking for, what's their next new opportunity. We saw a lot of new things come out of that. I really think we're going to see a lot of great innovation come out of 2020. There's a lot of negative from 2020, certainly, but I think there's going to be some good positive because we've all experienced social isolation now. We've all experienced challenges, whether economic, whether social, kind of really across society. And it's going to create a lot of new ideas and entrepreneurs who I look forward to both of us having the opportunity to work with. And that really drives to, if I was a new startup and wanted to have the chance to work with you in AARP Innovation Labs, how do startups engage with you?
That's a great question. And I'm sure the question that many startups who are listening are like, okay, when do I hear about that part? How do I connect with them? We're not elusive. It is very simple and easy to connect with us. All of the ideas around how you engage with us, all of the entry points in engaging with us are available on our website, which is aarpinnovationlabs.org. And we're also very active on social, on Instagram, and also on Twitter at AARP iLabs. And it is there where we consistently post the pitch competitions that we collaborate around, which I know, Steve, you and I, or AARP Innovation Labs and CTA Foundation has had a dynamic opportunity to collaborate around pitch events for the past couple years. But we host a number of pitch events throughout the year. And all that information is made readily available on our website. We also post it on our social channels as well. And the one thing that you were talking about just a moment ago, Steve, as it relates to just groundbreaking solutions that have been introduced, particularly in times of peril, I think about, and I'm actually, quite proud. And on behalf of AARP Innovation Labs, I'm quite proud of the fact that in March, when we actually seen the height of the pandemic, or what we thought was the height, the kickoff of it, there were lots of startups that, really got worried. And it's because the support that they had been receiving from organizations, the path that they were on, it instantly became a bit fuzzy. And one thing that I'm particularly proud of is that at the height, in March of 2020, we actually had the opportunity to introduce a new investment opportunity for startups. And so while we had been in the investment space for a while, we introduced the opportunity to provide additional support to startups through check writing from AARP Innovation Labs. And so I'm so grateful that there are so many startups that are going to continue to thrive, continue to solve issues for people as they age, and in part because of the support that they've received from AARP Innovation Labs.
That is incredible and really needed given the last year. I know, certainly, the CTA Foundation from a charitable side has been doing that work with the nonprofit community, but there needs to be that kind of support and investment into the for-profit, the startups that are building these new innovations. So it's very exciting to see what you've been able to do there. You mentioned the pitch competitions, and yeah, we've loved working with you over the last couple years and having some incredible companies, Helium and Waverly and Zebrio and others that have come out of these startups at the pitch competitions at CES. And we're looking forward. We're going to have a new competition to announce here very soon for the audience here. And you mentioned how it all kind of builds up towards your grand pitch finale, where you take all the winners from across the year and then announce your kind of grand winner across the year. Talk about, how does that help you engage with the startup community, but also kind of what are you looking for as you're hearing these pitches? Because I know you hear about as many pitches from startups as anyone I know in this community.
Yeah, a couple of things. Just thinking about what we call the road to grand pitch. Grand pitch finale is the culmination of all of our pitch competition stops that usually happens in the fall. And it follows, 7 or 8 different pitch stops that we make throughout the year. We make a determination on how many stops we make at the beginning of the year based on goals and based on the challenges that we're looking to solve for. And essentially, what's so special about pitch competition stops, and I'll say pre-pandemic, because we were physically going places, is that we have been able to collaborate with very meaningful organizations like CTA Foundation, like Nashville Entrepreneur Center. And the specialness to the uniqueness to those collaborations is that we recognize that innovation can crop up anywhere. Meaning that, we're not just looking in Silicon Valley. We're not just in New York looking at fintech companies. We're not just in Boston looking at health tech companies, the places where the innovation around those topics typically crops up. We're curious about where is innovation occurring in the middle of the country, in places like Nashville, in places like Louisville, in places like Louisiana, that may not always necessarily be directly connected with disruptive innovation. I know that there are disruptive pockets everywhere, but we want to make sure that we allow those spaces to be elevated. And so we make meaningful collaborations with organizations that have a presence in startup communities across the country, and we make several stops. The top 1 or 2 winners, depending, are invited to be a part of our grand pitch finale. And it's not only just a competition, it's also a celebration of dynamic innovation that is in support of the age tech community and the innovation space. And so that's typically how grand pitch finale goes, how the road to grand pitch finale goes. Most of our pitch competition stops occur sometime between January and July of every year to leave a little space to execute that magic that happens with grand pitch finale. So we look forward to, what the virtual space of pitch competitions will look like in 2021. And, hopefully we do look forward to getting back to in-person pitches, but our cycle of pitch stops will not stop. We'll continue to look for and discover the best and brightest companies in the health tech and fintech spaces across the country.
Oh, that's great to hear. And I do think it's important to really find some of those startups that exist outside the major tech hubs, because there's a lot of innovation going on around the country, and it really builds in the opportunity to bring, more diverse voices into the conversation of, people from different backgrounds, people from different age groups, different geographies, and really make sure that those are captured and brought into the overall ecosystem. So it's really exciting to see the work that you're doing.
And
We're also excited. Oh,
I'll say, Steve, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to say that it also, is exciting that we get the opportunity to kick off the pitch cycle with the CTA Foundation, right? So we do a number of stops throughout the country, but usually our very first stop in January is in collaboration with your organization. And so it's always a wonderful and exciting time.
well, and we love having you there because I do. Obviously, I may be a little bit biased as far as CES being the global home for innovation. My marketing team's going to love me for plugging that, but it is a great way to really kick off, bring in innovators from around the world to pitch, and then go out into the rest of the country and really engage and build to those grand finals, which I always love to see all the companies that come together there. Now, in addition to doing that pitch competition, you also exhibit at CES, and we've loved having AARP there. Can you give us a little insight into some of the things you'll be showing this year?
Sure. So there's a little bit of a backstory. We're of course not new to exhibiting. We've gone from 400 square foot smart home to last year a 3,000 square foot activation where we brought more than 12 companies there to showcase and to make the innovation community aware of what they're putting out in the world. And this year, of course, we're virtual, but we're of course still committed to ensuring that the startups that we work with, the startups that are part of the AARP Innovation Labs portfolio, the startups that we have relationships with, have the opportunity to shine and to shine bright. And so normally we have a pretty massive thematic approach. This year we decided, you know what, there are lots of startups that are solving lots of things for people as they age. And so we're not going to stuff anyone in a box this year, just as much as 2020 has been unpredictable. We wanted to have a little bit of unpredictability to us as well. And so we are welcoming 10 startups from various different areas in the health tech and fintech space to join our overall approach to making sure that we're active at CES 2021. And so, of course, you'll be able to learn about what they're launching, what they're involved in, and more information about what we're doing from an AARP Innovation Lab standpoint as well. And you can learn more about who those startups are and what they're working on at our digital presence at AARP Innovation Labs.
Well, that's great. And I highly encourage all of our CES attendees to check it out. And I can't wait to take a look at it as well. You mentioned some of the websites where people can, engage with you previously, but, just if you wouldn't mind repeating them again, because I have a feeling there's a few people out there, grabbing that notepad and making sure that they know how to learn more about AARP Innovation Labs and how they might get engaged with you. So what is that website again?
Sure. It's aarpinnovationlabs.org. And also as an additive to that, because we are a social group, please feel free to connect with us on social, where we have a lot more minute by minute updates of the things that we're into. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we're actually newly on LinkedIn as well. On Instagram and Twitter, we're at AARP iLabs, and you can find us on LinkedIn at AARP Innovation Labs.
Well, that's great. I encourage everyone to follow you in all those locations as well. And Jacqueline, it is such a pleasure to talk with you. I'm really excited for CES 2021 this year, and getting back together in person in CES 2022 coming up just down the road. But once again, just real pleasure talking with you, and thank you again for joining today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Steve.
Well, absolutely. For the audience, if you're interested in learning more about the CTA Foundation, you can go to ctafoundation.tech. And otherwise, I wish you a wonderful CES 2021.